Good evening. It's 7 o'clock. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Dover Development Review Board meeting for Thursday, March 9th. We are here to continue to listen to or review two continuances. One is application 22 VD100-01 Horizons Engineering Inc. for Brady Sullivan SV LLC, Snowfield Loop Road, West Dover, to complete the remaining phases of the PUD originally permitted in 2006. The previous completion extension lapsed on 12/31/21, hence the permit was required. And to consider the continuance of application 23 OL000-01 by Rich Werner / W+B Management for clock tower development for an amendment to the outlook at Mount Snow PUD project. The Upper Canyon Road section will be redesigned and property reallocated to create 12 building sites, each with a 4-bedroom single-family dwelling. Since no one can offer testimony who was not part of the original application or the original hearings, I will not be swearing anyone in tonight. You will be considered sworn in as of the original hearings. And I'm not going to go through the explanation of how the meeting runs because theoretically all of you have already heard that. What I'd like to propose is that we review the outlook at Mount Snow application first. So at this time, I would like to ask for a motion to close the hearing for application 23 OL000-01.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Steve Montello seconds. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Jeanette, who was here? Was Steve Palermo part of? It was just the four of us, right?
And Jack,
And Jack, okay.
right? Yes.
Jack, not Harry. Right, were you here?
No, Jack's here.
Jack was here for that one.
Yes,
Steve-
I was here for the one last week.
Yeah, Steve was
weeks
here for the other one.
Okay. All right, so we have the right people voting.
Yes.
Just making sure. All right, and do we have someone here who is with the clock tower? Is there someone here representing them?
No.
Okay.
Rich, you mean Rich?
Well, I know Rich isn't coming, but I thought there was someone else who was going to be coming.
Oh, okay.
All right, so that hearing has been closed. We go into deliberative session. We will vote on whether to approve, deny, or approve with conditions. So now we move on to application 22 VD100-01 Horizons Engineering Inc. for Brady Sullivan.
Devin is here.
So Devin is the engineer. Who are Anna and Deborah?
They are butters to Outlook.
Okay, so
This is Charles. Charles, Anna, and Deborah
Okay.
are butters to Outlook.
Charles, Anna, and Deborah, that hearing has now been closed. We had requested time to continue in order for me to ensure that I had all the information I needed to write the decision. I did. So we have closed the hearing and the decision will be issued shortly.
All right, would that be something, Charlie Perrault, 12 Howard Lane, how are you?
Good, how are you, Charlie?
Good, thanks. Would that be, is the decision posted on the site? The board site, or how would we get a copy?
Oh, can I answer that?
Yes, please.
So if I have everyone's mailing address for those that were online, I will mail you a decision once it's ready to be mailed.
Okay,
So
all
as
right,
long as Tabby has your contact information.
okay, all right, I'll make sure she does.
Okay.
Please feel free to email me at zoning, ZONING @doververmont.com. I've spoken to all of you at some point or another, so you should have my contact information. Pop me an email with your mailing address and I will make sure that it's recorded and that Jeanette can send you out a copy of the decision.
All right, thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks. Aye.
Oh,
Unless you want to say.
okay. Anna and Deborah, did you have something?
You might-
Well, I'm just a little confused. I'm not familiar with proceedings and all. I thought there was going to be a summary and maybe other questions and a completion of the discussion that we had in February.
Well, that discussion was completed.
Okay, and so is there, so right now, there's been nothing documented. We'll have something documented and sent to us. And then if we feel that our questions weren't addressed, do we have some recourse or how do we, where do we
Well,
go?
what you have recourse on is you will see our decision, including the conditions that we have placed on it. And if you disagree as an interested party, who have the opportunity to, I lost the words,
Environmental court.
to escalate it to environmental court. You can challenge our decision.
Okay, so there's really and not to be a discussion this evening at all. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so
The whole reason for the extent for the continuance was not to request additional information. It was simply to ensure that I had all the information required in order to properly write the decision. So if I didn't, then tonight would have been a discussion of the additional information required.
I see. Okay, then basically, there's no reason, there's no discussion that would be useful for us to sit and listen to at this point in time. Is that correct?
That's correct. Your hearing is over.
Right,
But,
okay,
but you're saying that the decision you're making is based on all of the input that was made by anyone at the previous meetings.
Correct.
okay,
The decision was made, yes, the decision was made based on the evidence presented in the last hearing.
And,
Or
and
the beginning of this
there-
hearing, I should say, because
got it. Okay, so then our next step as being abutting neighbors is to wait for us to get, to have the decision mailed to us to review it so that we're then in the know of everything that is, that has been approved and that will be occurring.
correct.
Okay, all right, then, do you have anything else? No. All right, then, okay, well, thank you for that clarification. I, as I say, was not familiar with the proceedings here. And I guess then, there's no reason for us to stay on, is that correct?
Not as far as this hearing goes. If you want to listen to the next one, you don't have interested party status, so you wouldn't be able to comment on it anyway.
Right, got
You
it,
just enjoy our company. You're welcome to sit there and listen.
but I appreciate that. Okay, thank you very much, and then I will look forward to getting the notification by mail. You all have, you have a good evening.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, and Anna,
Yes. Can you hear me?
I can
Yes.
hear you. What? Are you here for?
No, I'm just, I remember I spoke at the first meeting.
Yes.
And I'm just here to see what's going on and to see if there were decisions made with water resource experts answering my questions and my concerns. That's all. So I think you already know this.
So
It was,
you're here for the Snow Vita decision.
yes,
Yes.
Oh,
Snow Vita.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. So you are still, your hearing is now opening. Or the continuance is beginning again. So we sent a letter requesting information from the applicant, Horizons Engineering. And we have a response. So I think what I'm gonna do, I have the whole folder, but I think the pertinent information is the letter. Addressed to Tabby, request for additional information. So, pursuant to section 335.3 of the Dover zoning bylaw, permit applications and requirements, the board requests an up-to-date report from a hydrogeologist demonstrating that the project will not result in negative impacts to existing wells serving properties in the area of the proposed development. Mr. Courier, your response was not to provide us with that document.
No, you have a copy of the document.
An up-to-date report from a hydrogeologist?
Oh, no. And I can explain that, but you can't really do that until you drill the new wells. That particular document that I gave to you, that was for well 1 and well 2. And as I stated, I think that was at the request of water and wastewater, because at that point they were trying to find a public well for the whole 56 units back then. And I think I hope I explained it pretty well, but so that was done at basically wastewater's or water wastewater DEC request, because they were looking for 30 to 40 gallons per minute out of a public well at that point, out of well number 2. And it says that in the report as well. It talks about it in the report. By the 1,000 feet, that's why it was 1,000 foot. Lisa, this is what I'm getting from looking at all the back and forth that went on back in 2006. And I can't tell you that I know exactly what happened, but this is what I'm thinking. And I talked to the state yesterday just to make sure I wasn't going to tell you something that wasn't correct.
Okay.
But anyway, so they did that study, and they actually monitored several wells all around the Snow Loop Road, and they pumped on both well 1 and well 2. As I said, they were trying to get a public well out of the number 2 well, but it turns out they only got about 5 gallons a minute. So they went back to, so they did that study thinking they were going to get more water, and they did it. They monitored wells within 1,000 feet. That's why there was so many different wells monitored in that study. And they pumped both those wells, and then at the same time kept track of the drawdown in the adjacent wells around that area. And it's all laid out in the study that I provided. So that study, that's still a legit study for those 2 wells. I mean, that's what they found. There's nothing, things could change. So I guess you could do those over again and maybe get a different result. I don't think so though. So the point I was trying to make in my commentary in the letter to you is the wells, the next 2 wells, 3 and 4 for this next phase. One well takes care of 9 units. And I gave you the approved water wastewater permits that are still in effect as far as I know. Is that the water taken out on a daily basis is basically 2,600 gallons, roughly 2,565 gallons. And that I made a mistake on what I gave you there, and I'm going to tell you what it was. So 2,565 gallons a day is the design flow out of a well for 9 units. Okay, and that's what was approved by the state. That equates to, this is what I did wrong. I divided that by 1,440 minutes in a 24-hour day. And I got 1.78 gallons per minute, okay? Well, talking with the state, they look at it over half a day, 12 hours. So that 1.78 that I talk about in my letter to you is actually more like double that, 3.6 gallons per minute. Which if you look at the interference regs for the state, that equates to a 300-foot radius. I was thinking it would be 100-foot because I had it at 1.8. So if you look at that interference, when they want somebody that's drilling a well to test it and check the levels in other wells in that area, the radius is 300 feet. In our case, at the 3.6, because it's between 2 and 5. Are you following or
I'm
Did-
struggling.
are you following?
May be fine, but I'm struggling. Yeah. My concern, because it's going to take a very long time for you to penetrate this brain with all this information. Let me tell you what I'm concerned about.
Okay.
Okay, my concern is that neighbors in your area are going to find that with this additional water draw, that they are going to start to lose functionality in their own water system. And this is based on information that was gathered in 2006. A lot has changed since 2006. So my concern is, what assurances do we have that the 2006 data accurate under today's conditions with the construction that's happened today?
Nobody's going to look at that study and tell you that that it's still valid without doing some more studying, I guess. I know it's pretty hard to tell what exactly is going on underground in a bedrock type situation. It's all crack control, so you could drill a well in one place and not have it interfere with anybody, and then move a couple hundred feet and drill a well, and because it's hooked to the same crack that the other well's hooked to, it actually has a huge impact, or could have an impact. The fact of the matter is, there's a pretty good reservoir of water in that area. If you read the report, you see that the reason you guys can drill wells all over the place is you have a pretty good resource there. Now, all the state would, I'll just go back to what the state would require, and seem to tell me that they were the ones that we needed to satisfy. And I'm sure that if you have concerns, we're going to satisfy you as well. But they would make us do 300 feet around each well. If there's wells within 300 feet of that well, any of the new wells that haven't been tested, they would make us do interference testing, which is similar to that report, for each well that's within 300 feet of that new well. And of course, there's some mitigation that can be done if in fact that study shows that you're impacting wells in the area. You can go over and either drill theirs deeper or hydrofrac or something like that. There are things that can be done if in fact there is some interference, but usually the interference is pretty minimal and it doesn't affect their well. It might drop. Like if you look at that report and read through it, you'll see that they pumped it. I don't know what it was, 48 hours they pumped it. And then measured the levels in those wells. And then knowing what they know about the hydrogeology, the way water moves through rock, they extrapolated out 187 days at that flow rate. And then and looked at what it did to the levels in those wells that they were looking at. And they found, I forget exactly they found after 187 days, they saw some reduction in the level in the wells that they were looking at, in 4 of them, I think, if I remember right. So, but not detrimental, not to the point where it's detrimental to anybody, according to the report. So
a testing would be on every well within 300 feet of the newly drilled wells. Is that what you're telling me?
That's
And
the
what
state's,
constitutes
yeah,
failure or success?
that's the state's rules. So it looks like there would be at least 2 or 3 wells that you'd have to monitor while you're doing the drawdown, the pumping. At least, it just depends on which well you're looking at, whether that circle encompasses the well that's on those lots that are right adjacent.
Mhm.
Every house there has a well, I would assume. So that's what could be done. I mean, that's what the state, they didn't require it, which is kind of a little bit confusing.
Mo, I'm sorry, my question though is what constitutes success or failure? When you're testing those, excuse me, when you're testing all the wells within 300 feet, what is the determinant of success or failure?
I'm not a hydrogeologist, but I'll tell you this, in the report that you've got right there, they concluded that after that 187 days, I think there was some wells that were showing 10 feet of drop in water level. Of course, that's all an extrapolation. It's not they didn't pump that thing for 87 days. That's the magic of what hydrogeologists do when they do these studies. But I think a couple of the wells dropped 10 feet, calculated 10 feet, and they had plenty of water above which left plenty of water above where their well was situated. So
Okay, you're telling me what already happened. I'm asking you, what constitutes a successful?
I can't tell. I think that's a judgment call. I mean, if it doesn't impact, and we're talking about 187 days, remember?
I know we keep going back to that. Let me just ask the question a different way. What constitutes interference on the other wells?
It doesn't speak to that in the regulation. So, I mean, you can look at the regulation too. I think it's a matter of whether it causes them to have problems with their well. I mean, that would make sense to me.
We need to know that.
Yeah, I can try to find out that.
That'd be great.
Okay.
Wells, you said wells 3 and 4 are going to have been approved, permits have been attached. And you said that there's for a total of approximately 2,500 gallons per day. How many units will that serve?
9 units.
9 units?
9 units.
And how many gallons per minute do 3 and 4 pump?
We don't know that yet because we haven't drilled them. So all this would need to be predicated on those being drilled, and obviously they're not going to build those units until they know they have water for them. So, that's something.
One of the concerns is if everybody's here at the same time and everybody's running water, and I can speak to that issue because we have Boy Scouts in the church next door. How much water is used in one day? And 20 people in one day.
Well, let me just say.
We use that much.
Well, let me just say that's the state's design parameters, and they're usually pretty conservative. I'll just say that off the top. The other thing you can point to is there's 18 units out there hooked up just like that. And I haven't gone around asking everybody whether it's working, but I have heard no problems with that using the state's numbers. So,
Because one of the things that most arouses the ire of your abutters is the possibility of losing the functionality of your well, even partially. So that's why we're harping on this so much, because this is a big deal. And it's become a bigger and bigger deal as time goes on and more construction happens.
yeah,
So-
no, I agree. I think it's an important thing to get right, but
That's why we're trying to nail this down, so we
I know,
have
but it's
in writing to present to our abutters.
okay.
So that they can feel that, that the town and your client have worked as hard as possible to make sure that they wouldn't lose that functionality.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just a difficult thing to do, that's all. I mean, once you drill the wells, you can do a similar type study, and you certainly tell whether it has any real interference pretty quickly. You know, you can see whether it's starting to drop some well levels in the abutting properties. But that's really the only way to do it. I mean, you have to do some pumping on the well that you drill, and then record the levels in the wells that are of interest around there. And that's where they can get their information. With bedrock wells, you know, it really is just a matter of which cracks they're getting their water from.
Okay. Board members, are we?
I have no other questions.
I have no.
On this one.
Yep.
Okay, so, number 2, pursuant to section 365.3, coordination with health, sewage, and sewer ordinances, please provide evidence that sufficient wastewater capacity for the entire proposed project has been purchased from North Branch Fire District. If the capacity is not been purchased, please explain why not. And you expressed that, your proposal would be to purchase gallonage only for the next phase.
That's correct.
Okay. Would you then understand then that may mean that the only phase that will be approved in this decision will be that phase?
That-
We will not do a conditional
That's
permit
too
for
bad.
additional phases.
That's too bad. I'll let the owners know that. It was proposed as a phase project, and it's done for many reasons. I mean, that's a big outlay. We're talking about $250,000 for the 12 units we're talking about right now, just to secure that wastewater. And you, what it would be for the other 24. So we're talking, you know, $1 million by the time you're. And so for obvious reasons, you try to get some buildings built. So you can offset that, all those.
Absolutely. I understand that part.
Okay. So that's what they'd like to do, whether, you know, you guys can work that way or not, that's obviously up to you.
Yeah, the rationale is when you came back to the next phase, the gallonage may not be available because someone else could have purchased. Because it's a fixed amount. That's it, the fire district. That's what
I got that. I did attach the North
And
Branches.
you actually have 2 members of the Prudential Committee for the fire district sitting in the room right now.
What's that?
2 of our board members are also part of the Prudential
Oh.
Committee.
Yeah, I'm just saying that I attached the what Helen gave me for what's been spoken for, I guess, is the best way to put it. And it seemed like there was plenty of capacity. So, and I think I mentioned that it would be at the, obviously.
Today there.
No, and I understand what you're saying, and I'm not disputing that, but we need to look at when we write our decision, whether we are creating a hardship in terms of enforcement down the road. And so it may be that the way we decide to do this is to permit the applicant for the phase for which they already have gallonage secured.
And I can talk to Brady Sullivan and see if they want to front that much. The feeling I've gotten so far is they don't really want to.
Or come back and reapply for the next phase.
Yeah, that's the other option. Yep.
Okay. Let's see here. Okay, so then we had the general lighting requirements, and your explanation was that you would match all of the town requirements in terms of blackout lighting. And I think that the lighting is on is we've witnessed, and the lighting is going to be the same as it is on the existing buildings. Essentially.
That would be my intent.
Okay. Provide evidence of compliance with all applicable state and fire code. So you will get a review from the state fire marshal.
Yes, and I've got a little bit to add to that. Since the architect finished all the plans, basically got them to the point where they could be submitted to the fire marshal.
Mhm.
And in doing that, they had, I don't know if you're familiar with SFC. They're a consulting firm that does just fire type engineering,
Okay,
sprinkler systems, that type thing. They got a letter, they had them review their plans. They got a letter from them, basically stating that they don't need to be sprinklered.
We got that.
right, that part,
I don't think,
there still needs,
I
to be-
get-
there will still be sign off from the state fire marshal, right?
yeah, but I was gonna fill you in where that's at, that's all.
Okay,
So basically, you got that ruling, and I've had a meeting with the state fire marshal on it. And so I sent that letter to him, and he had some issues with their rationale for not sprinklering.
Mhm.
So where it stands right now is he sent back an email to SFC, and SFC responded, and SFC seems like they're pretty sure of their position. But they responded with a long email back to the fire marshal, and we're waiting to see what the fire marshal's response will be, because we need to kind of know that. We need to know it, because if we got to sprinkler those buildings, it's a different deal. And so I think the fire engineer is pretty certain of his position, but we'll see. We'll just have to wait and see what comes back from the state.
because the fire marshal.
I can share all that with you too, if you'd like, at some point.
Will,
The fire marshal's the end.
the fire marshal's the end all to be all at this point.
Yeah, I get that.
So, yes, we would, I mean, and certainly were this decision to, when we decide in your favor, certainly one of the conditions would be all of that documentation,
Yeah,
okay? Okay, anybody have any more questions on that? Ask. Okay. Pursuant to section 715, application review procedures, please provide all the information set forth A through H on the site maps and supporting data where applicable. The plan submitted in the original application included all information as required, except the most recent buildings B, 3, and 4 are not shown on the as-built survey provided. We anticipate doing additional survey when spring arrives, and if the buildings were constructed according to design, so the representation shown is quite accurate. All other features of the property are either very close to the design or as originally surveyed and depicted. Slopes on site are generally 10 to 20 and do not exceed 25%. So very close is not the same as actual.
yeah, that's fine. Like I said, we'll do some additional survey, and I'll get you an updated existing condition plan.
There
Gotta
needs
do
to be one there needs to be multiple documents, but there needs to be one document that has everything on it. So we're not flipping from page to page, where there's one single master sheet. That's part of the PUD article. Where we can see, where somebody can go in and see everything on the same piece of paper at the same time. And not go, well, if I lay this one over this and hold it up to the window so I can see through it, I can see where everything is. So we just want to make sure we get that.
Okay,
Okay. Provide a plan for hydrant locations, pressure, hydrant testing will be completed, lines drainage. Okay, so we will be getting the hydrant plan and hydrant testing results when they're available, is that correct?
yes, we've been, the fire department's required that as well. So I tried to get them to go do it for me and pay them, but they say they don't have any of the equipment or anything. So we'll come down as soon as it makes sense to open a fire hydrant and do that. I really just wanted to get you some of the information that I had for you, and not let you not have you forget that we were still here.
Oh, no, I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
Okay.
There are obviously some areas where we're still going to be looking.
Sure.
So, does anyone have any more questions? I have nothing. Jack, were you part of this hearing?
No.
Okay, Steve,
Yes.
Mr. P, you do have any
Yes,
questions?
I'm here. Yeah.
Did you have any questions?
No questions.
Okay. Anna?
You know, I'm glad that you're working on this potential problem as I look at it. Because not only there were other units, not just the Snow Vita Loop, but there was other units that were built, and it seems they're all down in the base area. And so that was my concern about the water levels and the use. Thank you, though, for,
We're very
thank you.
sensitive to that at this point.
I'm sorry.
We're very sensitive to that issue at this point. It's come.
Yes, I know, and I appreciate that so much, because I was thinking I was talking out of turn or just too worried for no reason, but it seems to be a problem in the world today. So thank you.
Okay, was there anything else you wanted to ask?
No.
Yeah, I guess on the water issue.
Devin,
Oh,
I'm
sorry.
I'm letting Anna
Sorry.
finish, and then we're gonna go back to you. So Anna, you're all set?
Yes, thank you.
Wonderful. And does Tabby have your contact information so we can send you updates?
Yes,
Mhm.
Okay.
But Anna, ping me an email anyways, just to make absolutely sure.
Okay.
that'd be fine.
Hear that, Anna?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, Devin, sorry.
I just wanted to, so just to help me understand. Have people had problems with wells in that area, or are you just concerned about the tipping point here that might be approaching? I mean, are you
We've had some issues.
right in that area?
Mhm.
Yeah, just wells dry or just
Just people losing functionality.
really?
I mean,
Curious.
and to be fair, I understand that you can't test for peak use, but there is gonna be peak use. Christmas Eve or New Year's Eve at 5 o'clock, every single person in the valley is taking a shower at the same time.
Yeah, I can see that, but all these numbers that have been thrown around account for peak use.
Okay, so, but this is why we're maybe being overly cautious about this. It has been an issue. People have had complaints in that part of the town as well as other parts of town. So
Right.
it's an area that personally, anyway, I consider significant and want to ensure that we look out for people who are already there.
I think what we need to figure out, or maybe I need to figure out, is what protocol or whatever would give people the kind of warm fuzzy feeling that they need. The state obviously has their way of doing it, which is what I provided to you with the interference table. That's what they would tell us to do, is basically test those wells within 300 feet and show that, if you extrapolate out that you're not going to drop somebody. I'll find out more specifically about what makes it a failed test, say.
Right.
But that's what they would have us do. So we drill the well, we would see if we get water to start with. And then you always do a pump test to try to find out what the long-term yield is anyway. And then what you have to do is, while you're doing that, you monitor the wells that are within 300 feet, say, at least by the state's way of doing things. And so I guess I'll talk to, we do have hydrogeologists on our staff that work both in New Hampshire and Vermont. And I've talked to them, but I get the same type of, it's just hard to know until you get out there and actually drill the wells and actually can do some testing, because you really don't know.
How much storage do you have for the 9 units? Water storage?
Yeah, 1,400.
1,400 gallons?
Yep,
That's it?
that's what's there right now. It's been working.
Whoa, for the 9 new units? Or is that what's there
9
in
units.
first phases?
That's for their peak flow. That's to take care of that time in the morning, of course, it's ski chalets, so, but that's that time when people are in the shower.
Do you have a holding tank? You have water storage tanks, or you're just saying in the casing is 1,400 gallons?
The holding tanks are 700 gallons each, and there's 2 for each 9 units. So that takes care, the idea is that takes care of your peak flows. As soon as it starts to drop, the wells kick on and start replenishing it.
Oh, I understand.
That takes care of that peak. It's pretty standard, so I'm not gonna, but, and the other thing is the proof's in the pudding. So there's 9 units out there on one well and 9 more units on the other well, and it's been that way for 10 years, 15 years.
But 1,400, so would there be an additional tank or tanks constructed for the new phase?
For each well, there'll be a pump house. And it's shown on the plan. Each well has a pump house, and in that pump house is the pressure system and 2 700-gallon storage tanks. It takes care of the peak periods during the day. That's how it works. You guys think that more water is used than really is.
You also say in your cover letter to Tabby that wells 3 and 4 were approved. But you talk about table 11.4 indicating a monitoring distance of 100 feet, not 300.
You made a mistake you said earlier.
Right.
Okay.
I had a discussion yesterday to make sure I wasn't wrong, and I had to correct it, and hopefully I corrected that.
Okay, so you're saying that you will be installing 2 more wells, and each one of those will have 2 700-gallon storage tanks.
Correct.
Okay.
That's what's been, I can design something different, but that's what was designed originally. And as I said, it seems to be working. It certainly seemed reasonable to me that it would work. I might be, if I was doing it, and I might do it, I might add a little bit of storage to make sure. But the fact that it's working, and I'll quiz the guy that maintains the units. I don't think that they've had any problems with it. So, I'm less inclined to change the design. I'll be the one stamping the plans at this point because Bob isn't around anymore. So, and I'm a PE, so, I have to agree with his design before I stamp it. And so I'll do my homework on that before I.
Yeah, and just think about it, at 2 gallons a minute, if you get that yield out of the well, it's gonna take 233 minutes to fill that 700 gallons.
Right, but remember, we're probably gonna get 5 gallons a minute. We're probably, ideally we'd get 5 gallons a minute. That's what the other ones are.
I understand. So during peak demand, when you're using and depleting your tank, it's gonna take you 2 hours to fill that tank up again.
Well, and that's fine. Because remember, it kicks on as soon as it starts to drop.
I understand. I'm a well operator.
Oh, okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, the point is, I guess I'll go back to the point is, it's working. So, and I'll do a little more research on that, just to settle my own mind. I agree with you. It seems a little bit light, but boy, it sure seems to be working, so. And Bob was a good engineer, so I'm pretty sure he didn't skimp on it too much. While we're talking, plastic storage tanks, they could be 1,000 gallons.
Steve P., do you have any questions?
No questions remaining.
John? Oh, you weren't. Never mind. Sorry.
That's
Thank you. Okay, so. I think we need to continue again and send you another letter that will further refine the list of things that we're looking for. We very much appreciate you coming in. partway through it to give us everything that you had. I'm sure
Yep.
that at least now we're clarifying the roadmap, I think is what's happening.
Yeah, I agree. I haven't worked with you guys. I do appreciate you letting me doing this from the warmth of my house, so.
The warmth
Thank
and
you.
proximity.
Thank you very much.
Next meeting date, sorry.
Next March, our next is March
23rd.
23rd. What
I
would
would-
you?
I would
How about
put it-
April 13th?
Yeah, let's do that. I'd just like to let the weather a little bit. How much snow do you guys have down there?
Well, we got some, but we're getting another 1.5 feet next week, so.
Everyone says that, and I just think lying.
Yeah,
Get a foot instead of a foot and a half. We're still getting something.
Getting something.
We're getting a little
Yeah,
something. Mhm.
I'm kind of, at this point, I'm kind of holding off until it gets a little bit nicer to come down and get that information.
Crocuses will be up in the middle of
Anybody
it.
want to flow hydrants in cold?
I'm waiting for sugaring season to start. This is a little bit.
I already did 2 quarts, so.
Well, some people have, but we do, we're small.
Okay, I think it's going on.
But I haven't tapped yet.
So I'll make a motion that we continue this hearing till April 13th.
I need a second. Second. Okay, all in favor?
Steve, Palermo, good.
Okay,
Aye.
so Steve, Jerry, Steve, and Sarah, that's 4. Okay, so, I will endeavor to get a letter out to you as quickly as possible. That will, I mean, you kind of have a sense of what we're looking for at this point, but I will put it in writing, so it's very clear.
Yep.
Hopefully, and certainly if you don't, if what I send you isn't clear, or if you think that there's been a miscommunication, you can communicate with me through Tabby.
Yep, it's gonna be on me, you guys, to be able to get down there and get that stuff, the information that you need. So I would hope I could do it in the next month, but it may get pushed a little bit. So if that's okay, it probably will get pushed a little bit. We're still working with Act 250. They want some information too, that's not easy to get right now as well. Not much different than what you're asking for, so.
And if you need to continue from the April 13th, just tell Tabby.
Right.
Yeah, I will. I appreciate that.
And I can do just one person,
Hmm.
open it, continue it, close it. So
Yeah.
that's fine.
And don't spend too much time on that letter. I pretty much get what you need. I just, we just aren't quite there yet.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for the information you've given us so far.
Have a great night.
You too. Take care. Okay,
Bye.
Anna, we're done. Anna,
Yes,
I'm gonna ask you to sign out now because we're gonna go into deliberative session.
yes, I shall do.
Okay.
Bye,
Okay.
everybody.
Good night, Anna.
Okay, appreciate you. Bye.
First by Jeanette, minutes.
Yes, we do have some minutes.
Okay.
So we can do the January 12th now because that was Steve Palermo, yourself and Jerry. That was for what used to be the Central Appliance Building. Dustin Linsky.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of January 12th. Steve
second.
Guerrero moves. I second. Gary seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so that was approved 300.
Okay,
Anything else, Jeanette?
and then for February 9th,
Okay,
the last meeting, which was
I make a motion.
John, Steve, Jack, Sarah, and Jerry.
okay, so Steve moved,
I'll second.
Jerry seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
That was 5, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
And then you were going to talk about the appointments for the alternates.
Jack and Sarah have both agreed to be reappointed as alternates, so I'll entertain a motion to forward their names to the select board for approval. So moved. And second,
Me.
and all in favor.
Paul.
Jack can't vote, but Steve can vote.
Steve did. vote
Okay,
yes.
so that's 5 of us.
Mhm.
Okay.
I didn't
so
vote.
I will write
We
a
still
letter.
like you.
I will write a letter to the select board requesting their approval, and that'll be heard at the next
For the next meeting,
meeting, which will be what? The 21st?
March 21st.
So we'll get it done before the end of the month.
Okay,
Yeah, the board appointments have got, the years have gotten all mixed up. Apparently right now, nobody. No, you're not. We fixed that.
Definitely all.
So, but Jeanette and I decided to go by what was printed in the town report, even though we don't think it's actually correct, but we're
That's
gonna-
it. Yeah, so don't say anything else. We're good.
Okay, so,
So
did you have
that's,
anything else, Jeanette?
no, that's all I got.
Okay, fine.
Go vacuum, I see the vacuum behind you. Vacuum.
No, I don't do that in the evening. No, no, no. I'm too tired. Maybe
So-
tomorrow.
So you're free to go, Jeanette.
Okay. All right, well, are you, well, you'll let me know your ins and outs of deliberative, yes?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah. Good.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm.
Okay.
Okay,
I can tell you.
Okay,
now
I'll-
I'm pause recording, because if we have to go into deliberative,
You're recording.
Montello and John seconded to come out of deliberatives. Actually, we come out of deliberative session by unanimous consent because we can't make a motion in deliberative session.
8:05 out of deliberative session, in case you didn't hear Sarah.
Okay, thank you. Came out of deliberative session by unanimous consent. We have made a decision. We've approved the application from Outlook with conditions. And we have continued the Brady Sullivan decision to April 13th.
Yes.
And we have requested additional information. I will be submitting a letter to Tabby to send to him, requesting or, more clearly outlining the things we're looking at. So motion to adjourn at 8:06.
So moved.
And
Second.
second, okay.
All in favor? So can I,
You don't get to do that, man, that's my thing.
can I kill this?
Damn it.
And kill this. I'm just
I'm
ending.
gonna write a letter of thanks for him, but we should have the fire marshal decision by the meeting, and I